Booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my November TBR. So November for me, as was last year, is Netgalley November. I get review books on Netgalley quite regularly and I never seem to get to them and it's terrible. And so I try to dedicate November to Netgalley November. I'm going to catch up on my Netgalley books. I really want to make a concerted effort this November. I did okay last time, but I got sidetracked by buddy reads and other things. This November, I've not got any buddy reads planned in, or I might have one, but that's not set. And so I really want to concentrate on getting through my Netgalley books and reviewing them for you all. So there is about 27 or 28 of them, so I'm going to talk about them all very briefly. I'll put a picture up here of their front covers and just give you a very brief synopsis on what each of them are about. So let's get started. The first book is A City Dreaming by Daniel Polanski. This book is set in New York City. It's about a powerful magician who's come back to the city and he's fallen sort of headfirst into the middle of a war between two witches. There's zombies, there's werewolves, there's drinking and fighting and magic. What could be better? So I look forward to trying that one. The next book is Masa Nations by Hayley Stone. This book is tipped to be good for fans of Robopocalypse, which I haven't read yet, but I do own. So I'm hoping that I'm a fan of Robopocalypse. So fingers crossed. It's about a world where the machines have risen. They've risen not out of malice, but out of command. Their command was to end the wars between humans, and they decided that the only way to do that was to end the human race. We're following our main protagonist, Ronna Long. She is a member of the resistance. She's fought against these robots since it first started happening. One day she dies and she is ended up cloned, and she finds all of her information and brain and thoughts all in another person's body, and we're following her story, so that sounds quite interesting. Next up is In the Hope of Memories by Olivia Rivers. This is a story about a young girl who is dying from a heart condition, and so she leaves messages and clues across the whole of New York City via her graffiti art. These messages and clues are for her 4 best friends, and the aim is that if they solve the clues, they can come to some realizations and solve some things that are problematic in their own lives. This is a YA contemporary novel. Next up is Hope and Red by John Scovron. This is tipped to be fans of Brent Weeks and Peter V. Brett and of course Brandon Sanderson. We're following Hope, who's a lone survivor of a village massacre. She's secretly training to be a tool of vengeance. And Red, an orphan who has been brought into the fold of the criminal underworld and taught how to thieve and steal. And apparently together they're going to take down an empire, so I can't wait to see how that happens. Next up is Flawed by Cecilia Ahern. Cecilia Ahern is the writer of many an adult romance novel that I've enjoyed, and this is her trying her hand at YA, and this is set in a world where perfection is valued over humanity, and we're following our main protagonist. I'm assuming she's going to end up fighting and resisting against this, but we shall see. Next up is Girl Last Seen by Heather Anastasio and Anne Greenwood Brown. This sounds like a really interesting thriller story. It's about 2 girls. They become viral for their singing on YouTube, and then one of the girls' vocal cords is paralysed, and so the other one sets out on a solo career, and then she goes missing, and it's about what happens when she goes missing, who has been involved in her disappearance, and it sounds like it's going to be a really interesting psychological thriller type story. Next up is Beautiful Broken Things by Sarah Bernard, and this is a story of 2 best friends and what happens when someone new arrives and becomes part of that friendship, and the friendship goes from 2 to 3. Possibly this person has different views on life and encourages them to do things that they wouldn't do otherwise, and I think it's going to be a really interesting look at friendship. Next up is Becoming Darkness by Lindsay Francis Brambles. This is a story about a virus that the Nazis let go, which turned the majority of the people in the world into vampires. And however, our main protagonist is one of those people that appears to be immune to this virus, and they're living in a world where they are in danger of their life from the vampires, but there is a peace treaty, and it just sounds really intriguing, and our main protagonist is obviously looking into some sort of conspiracy, otherwise it wouldn't be a YA dystopian book. Next up is The Demon Road by Derek Landry. This is a story about a girl. She's in a race, I believe, and she is running towards a monster. I don't know much more than that. I'm intrigued. The front cover is, I think, very powerful, so we shall see. All the Rage by Courtney Summers is a book about a young girl who is raped at a party, but the rapist is the son of the sheriff. So what to do in a small town when that happens? Is anyone going to believe her? Should she just keep quiet? And then someone else goes missing, and she suspects that possibly it could be a similar thing to what happened to her, and so she needs to decide whether she's going to stand up and tell her story. Never Always Sometimes by Addie El Said is the story of two best friends, a boy and a girl, and they are best friends that don't believe in the cliches. They've even got their own never list of things never to do. However, the boy in this relationship is currently has two that he has been breaking. One is never pine after someone the whole of your high school career, and the other is never fall in love or date your best friend. And so I think we're going to discover here what happens when he decides whether he's going to tell her how he feels. For fans, apparently, of Leanne Moriarty, Jojo Moyes and David Nichols comes You, Me and Other People by Fionnuala Kearney. This is a story about what happens when secrets start coming out the closet and more continue to come out, and how do you piece a family back together after that has happened. Next up will be my first Mercedes Lackey, and that is Hunter. This has a beautiful dragon on the front, so I'm intrigued about this one. But it is the story of sort of a separation between this world and another world, and there's bound to be a conspiracy that our main protagonist has to try and uncover, and there should be magic and fantastical elements, and I can't wait. Next is Spinning Starlight by R.C. Lewis. This has been blurbed as Snow White for a future generation, which has been upgraded. It's a science fiction story. It's about a young girl who's the daughter of a most powerful tech family in the galaxy, and she is kidnapped, and she has to try and work out a way to save her 8 brothers. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it sounds like fun. Next up is Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. This is a story about a girl who has a terrible time at school, and she's now grown up, she's reinvented herself, things have changed, but secrets are looking set to unravel, and this is a psychological thriller. Next up is Someone Else's Summer by Rachel Bateman. In this we follow a young girl who tragically loses her elder sister in a car accident. She discovers her sister had like a summer to-do list and decides that she's going to follow this, and I think it's going to be an interesting, heartbreaking story, so I look forward to trying that one out. Something in Between by Melissa Dela Cruz is the story of Jasmine, who is always been pushed by her immigrant parents to overachieve, and she's decided that she wants to go for a scholarship, and when she realises that as she fills in the scholarship papers that her family are illegal and illegally in the country, and this is the story that we follow that. Heartthrob by Belinda Williams is, I think, a new adult romance, and it's the story of two friends in Hollywood. One is an actress and one is a fashion designer. The fashion designer doesn't feel like she fits in, and then she probably meets a boy and something happens, so I'm really excited about this. I love me a bit of new adult romance. When the Moon Was Ours by Anna Marie McLemore sounds intriguing and too magical for me to be able to explain, so I'm just going to read you the blurb. It says, to everyone who knows them, best friends Meal and Sam are as strange as they are inseparable. Rose's grows out of Meal's wrists, and rumours say she spilled out of a water tower when she was 5. Sam is known for the moons he paints and hangs in the trees, and for how little anyone knows about his life before he and his mother moved to town. But as odd as everyone considers Meal and Sam, even they stay away from the Bonner girls, 4 beautiful sisters rumoured to be witches. Now they want the roses that grow out of Meal's skin, convinced that their scent can make anyone fall in love, and they're willing to use every secret Meal has fought to protect to make sure she gives them up. So this sounds really magical, and I'm looking forward to trying it. Another Day in the Death of America by Gary Young explores one day in America's history, on the streets of America in one day where 10 children were killed, and it is a non-fiction story and looking into each of these deaths and really probing into sort of, I believe, gun culture and why these deaths occur. Homegoing by Yard Jessie, you've probably heard about before, is a multi-generational story about two sisters. One that becomes a slave, one becomes a slaver's wife, and it's how their generations, following on from that, about their lives, how their lives differ, and I've heard it's brilliant, so I'm really excited about this one. The next one is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. Again, I'm going to read you the blurb for this because it sounds fantastic. It says a young woman's family is threatened by forces both real and fantastical in this debut novel inspired by Russian fairy tales. In a village at the edge of the wilderness of northern Russia, where the winds blow cold and the snow falls many months of the year, a stranger with piercing blue eyes presents a new father with a gift. A precious jewel on a delicate chain intended for his young daughter. Uncertain of its meaning, the father hides the gift away, and his daughter, Vasya, grows up a wild, willful girl to the chagrin of her family. But when mysterious forces threaten the happiness of their village, Vasya discovers that armed only with the necklace, she may be the only one who can keep the darkness at bay. And I can't wait. And it was the cover of this that drew me to asking the publisher if I could get a copy. So I'm super excited about that. If it's anything like the cover, I shall be very, very happy. Anyway, that is the books that I'm aiming to read in November for Netgalley November. Let me know what you're reading, and fingers crossed we all have a wonderful reading month. And yeah, I can't wait to let you know how I get on with these and to talk about them a bit more in my roundups every week. Well, that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.